940 CMR 29, which has to do with how the meetings are to be held. We are going to be recording to help us in aiding us with the meeting minutes. Is there anybody else recording?
I am live streaming this meeting.
Okay. Under the rules, no one can speak unless you're recognized by the chairman. So I ask everybody to observe that. And without any delay, do we have any meeting minutes? Is that?
Okay. I think everybody else knows that.
Yeah. Did you have things to review? You did, you did?
I did.
Okay. I'm sure which one it is.
Yeah, sorry, so we have one review, but,
All right, let's hold on.
if you want to pass, yeah, we do.
With that being said, we've got 3 minutes before the public hearing. So if you bear with us for a few minutes. I also want to say that we did receive several emails that have been forwarded to the board, and those will be incorporated and attached to the meeting minutes.
Do you know why this protest? Because I wanted to make a statement for George to see if we were allowed to speak. I wanted to make a silent statement. What are they? These are my son's legs, and this is his son from his tumor. He had cancer. So when he tells me that the boys
So I can show them one.
yeah, you send me the picture and I'll blow it
There
up.
are copies of the order of appeal.
Now I understand.
And agenda, as well as this paper on the corner over here is our, an informational session that we're regularly doing regarding CPAP. So, for any residents that are interested in going around, it will be June 1st at 6 p.m. Here at the senior center, and now we get a chance to submit questions to us in writing. DPH and DP will answer questions that we have, and, we'll put it on a meeting for you guys that will be, helpful in understanding the site and steps forward.
All right, I have 4:35. I'd like to make a motion to open the hearing. Now we move it to a voice call.
All vote.
Roll call vote.
Say your name.
Dave? Ed? Yes?
I vote yes.
Okay, so we have the matter before us, the Board of Health represents Mass Natural. We also have Jeff Blake here from Copeland and Page, who represents the town. So with that, George, if we may address each one separately. The first one, how about if we deal with the decommissioning?
I'm in total agreement. George Highland, counsel for Mass Natural Fertilizer, which is currently working with Mass DEP to implement and comply with the Massachusetts Contingency Plan 310 CMR 40.00. This hearing was particular. There's two items that I'm here tonight regarding Mass Natural Fertilizer. One is the decommissioning. The other is the filtering test. So again, I'll start with the decommissioning order. Decommissioning order, again, those deadlines that were put forth in the decommissioning order that were sent, we had no problems with in the last meeting. We're meeting those already. We actually submitted those letters, which your agent, Abby, received copies of that I hand-delivered regarding them being noticed, and we're proceeding on that schedule. So the only issue that we have with that decommissioning letter in the order is who it was addressed to. And we'd just like a change within that order to take off Lassard, and Lassard, since he is not really the party, he's an agent to Mass Natural Fertilizer. And so we would ask that the board reissue that order, which we're in agreement on the schedule, the deadlines for the decommissioning of the wells. Familiar, everybody, these are the 14 homes along South Ashton that we connected, my clients connected, and took them off their private drinking water wells. So this is a whole process to, one, work with DEP, use those wells if DEP wants to use those wells as monitors, drinking water wells, as monitoring wells for the nature and extent and delineation of the disposal PFAS, minor PFAS. So that's the only request I have to the board, and you can basically further if there's other orders, which I hope not, but if there are other orders, it would be addressed to Mass Natural Fertilizer Bureau, my law office.
Jeff, do we have an issue with moving Lassard? Lassard is accomplishing all the work, and all the permits through the Board of Health have been under his license number. The only communication the Board of Health has had with the PRPs is through yourself and Lassard Environmental. Do you represent all the PRPs, or?
No, I represent Mass Natural Fertilizer.
Okay, so how, it ends up being a logistics issue. Should we be issuing these orders to all PRPs or just Mass Natural?
Well, just so that I know, I'm the PRP with Mass Natural.
There's Mass Natural, Otter Farms, Siemens Paper, Grief, the Newitt Group, Ball Corporation, and Bristol.
Should probably issue their whether or not, I mean, I don't think Lassard Environmental Incorporated was necessarily wrong to name. They just point out they have all the purposes, but I think if they're saying that their only complaint in this order, they'll abide by everything else if we reissue, we get that from him tonight, then I see no issue. We will remove that name and reissue the order, as long as they're willing to.
Question? All right, and that's the case?
Well, again, we already agreed to those deadlines before this one.
Okay, but the order also goes on to talk about future wells, and it also
Yeah,
talks
absolutely.
about supplying us a letter at which ones would be maintained as monitor and which ones should be decommissioned right away. And I was at the meeting with DEP, and you just mentioned that if DEP wishes, and I think the way it was presented from DEP was that if Lassard wishes, maybe it would be a good idea to keep some of those as monitoring ones. So, is there a reason? We've got to tie it down to who.
Right, but from a technical point of view,
Yeah.
this is an iterative process where you have DEP's oversight on this disposal site, direct oversight, you meet with them monthly. As data presents itself, we can make that determination preliminary, from a preliminary point of view, but we also need DEP's approval. So again, we're into semantics, we're going to do it, and we will identify, but I do believe it's a lot more efficient if this order and the second order is addressed to Mass Natural Fertilizer, care of my Laurels, and if the board wants specific verification of all the other parties that received it, we're welcome to do that. What's really interesting, though, there are going to be other PRPs. So this is why this is a ever-changing animal, and depending on where we are in that delineation of nature and extent under the phase 2 criteria of the MCB, we will be coming to the board and identifying those as well. So it's an ever-changing animal.
Do we wait till we come out of the hearing to vote on changes, or?
I think you could vote on a change to this order and then go on to your next as well.
Okay.
Provided, I don't know if you're gonna take any other testimony from anyone else, you don't have to,
Yeah.
but it's just a change in a name, I think you just do it right now and then move on to the next one.
Okay, I would move that we delete Lassard off of the order and keep Mass Natural. And I believe Ohio River was also. But you represent Ohio River?
No, I do not, but again, I work on behalf of all the PRPs to comply with the oversight. Yes.
It'll be Carol.
No, it would be care of George Highland and Mass Natural Fertilizer.
I think what Attorney Hale is saying is that what Lassard is a subcontractor to them, and they're the ones that have the responsibility. So I move.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay.
The second matter up for discussion is the order regarding the filtration testing order. And maybe I admitted to offer to the board as well as council, the town was president, to read into the record the March 10, 2026 letter I wrote to the board on behalf of those two orders that were dated February 26, 2026. So either I can waive the reading of that letter, it's a page and a half. Again, it's up to you. If the board accepts this, okay. So you accept it as the record.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So again, the letter speaks for itself. There was arguments that we presented in that letter on both issues, particularly the filtration order, summarizes what our objections are regarding the filtration configuration, because the most poignant issues that I want to present from the board for discussion would be, again, first, Lassard be taken off and we use the same address under the previous order that we just agreed upon. And second, filter configurations, we're unsure whether you're talking about the point of entry systems, secondary filter systems, other filter, and we don't have that. And so for each house, they're generally the same, but we don't have each individual home configuration. But when they were installed, and my objection, my appeal to this board, when they were installed, the Westminster plumbing inspector approved them. And we did this to a jurisdiction issue. Therefore, we don't believe that that these components to supply, we'll supply another, try to get a more detailed and maybe even multiple options we can present to the board. But again, every house is different, it has a different configuration. And again, once the BOH system's installed, we don't have access to do these type of surveys to begin with. But in reality, these were all approved by the Westminster plumbing inspector when he inspected these installations. So that's what, again, that's the biggest concern we have is that's still happening. The other issue that I wanted to bring in is the most important one here. This is on my second page, would be the ordered lab results for the effluents of the Westminster PFAS. And again, pursuant to MCLs, that drinking water wells are required to fall under. Again, my role as a attorney for Mass Natural Fertilizer is the PFAS to comply with the Massachusetts Contingency Plan and those regulations. And the request to do collateral auxiliary sampling is not within my authority and not within the board's authority to ask a third party to perform such activities when these were all approved. The BOH systems have no impact. I can tell you that, just to refresh everybody in the audience, we've had numerous public meetings, Zoom hearings. But to refresh that, we initially installed started delivering 320, or over 300 bottle deliveries, water deliveries to residents before we knew where we were going. And again, all this process is complying with the Massachusetts Contingency Plan, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5. This takes years to do. So we started with the delivery of water. We moved on to the point of entry systems, aside with coordination of Morse Brothers, to install. Right now, I believe we started at 204 because of the disconnects at South Ash Street. We're down to, I think it's 194 homes that have BOH systems, which, I might add, these BOH systems are used all over the state. It's been used for years. Your public water supplies have these systems that are connected. Most of your municipalities have connected these similar principal systems. And so then I tried to narrow it down to what are we talking about here to do additional work. Because we're always receptive to the agents and even the department when something's required. What we found is we're down to about 85, 86. In addition to the BOH systems, we voluntarily installed water softeners because Westminster is known to have what I use in my left working water. And I believe it's on the record that most of the board members agreed with me when I first came in. These are kind of a unique situation that the BOH systems are actually benefiting the quality of the water. Now, what happened in the last meeting, so we focused on those issues. After that, we looked at that what the board was requesting was way beyond the scope of what we're required to do under the MCP, and that how can we assist the board? Well, we can assist the board in dealing with those unique situations where the residents complain. We had a couple. assume you got those test results from some of these issues, some of these residences. We're talking about less than maybe 10 residents out of, when we started 300. And remind you that these discontinuance of some of this work is a judge's order. So when we discontinue the water, we did the 320, but down to about 70. And chances are, once we deal with the Fitchburg homes, when I say deal with, do some sampling and all that, probably be down to about 30. Because of the BOH systems are operating so efficiently. And the department, who has experts in the field on this, as well as the SAR, who's an expert in this field, has reiterated that these systems work in this particular better than what everyone is expecting. There's to refresh everybody's memory, we have periodic sampling of the influent, midpoint, and effluent of all these BOH systems. It's done periodically, and if there's any variations, we immediately put people back on water, but we haven't had to do that. We have gone back and added some deliveries when there's been questions of when the board asked us to do some nitrate testing at the exact dates, excuse me, the addresses. Let me see. Let me see. I think one of them was 29 White Pine Ave, 137 Beanport Hill Road. And I personally spoke to the owner of 137 Beanport Hill Road. We did the testing. It was negative, the nitrates, no detects.
Have they received anything?
Well, that's what I asked. Have you received those yet? All right, well, I have the copies right here. Well, I can send them emails right after this.
We did check it with the
Yeah, okay, I didn't, so, a lot of chefs in the kitchen for this one, right? And then we did also 29 White Pine. We did, that was an odor discoloration, and those tests on March 26, there was no odor that was detected. They were actually sampled for odor.
That's my house, and
So-
it stinks.
Okay, so again, so what we did was, so in 2020, and again, I'm just trying to make sure that the board's aware of what the efforts we do, and there's only a few homes that have contacted us to do supplemental sales. We've done that, and we've confirmed what we owe. So what I can do is one, say, I don't know who's who, but 29 White Pine Ave. That BOH system was installed in 2022. It's been periodically tested, both the influent, midpoint, and effluent. What happened under the federal judge's order to discontinue bottled water in certain scenarios, we sent out notices November 25 to all the residents. We received some questions, answers we dealt with. December 25th, we received some general demands by individuals within the area regarding, right after we sent out that notice, and did not identify any specific complaints. In this particular case, on 29 White Pine, our first formal objection to this discontinuance of water was on January 13th, 2026, about odors and discoloration on February. That was just after the meeting. Water samples were taken for odor analysis, and state lab certified on March 26th that there's no odor detected. So that's, we'll go with this, just to give you an example of what we're doing with each individual complaint, trying to analyze and assist on these issues. But these BOH systems run very efficiently, and the department, as well as the LSP, as well as everybody that's involved with the testing and parts per trillion, we're confident that's okay.
So, with the second order, this is the board was not concerned with PFAS. Okay? PFAS doesn't fall under our order. The issue that we're trying to resolve is, before these houses were built, the water from the wells, before they were issued a building certificate, had to meet all primary and secondary limits as called out by both the federal, state, and local. The complaints that we continue to receive is homes complete staining, complaint of residue left behind. So Mass Natural owns, operates, and maintains filters in those homes. In some cases, I'm sure, filtration equipment that was originally in the homes had to be removed or relocated after the poets because they couldn't be used in their current configuration because they backwashed PFAS contaminants. So we have a situation where the quality of the water has degraded. From the PFAS standpoint, the water quality has improved. You show that in your reports every month or every quarter, that they're added to the filtering the PFAS. But in some cases, there's something going on with the water that causes red water, staining on their fixtures, and residents sometimes have to bathe their children in running water. And that's something they didn't have.
I disagree.
Well, we've got the records to show that. So if you disagree, the easiest way to prove that is to test the water as it leaves your filtration systems and enters the home and show that it meets all those primary and secondary standards. Then you're off the hook. And that's what the second order was all about. Okay. And I believe your appeal basically says we don't have the authority to do that. And I'd like to know what authority we lack to order you to do it.
I can actually spell it out, the letter speaks for itself.
I'm happy with you. I understand the word how fast as you have broad authority to help the public protect the public health and safety. If in fact the facts are, as we understand, that prior to the installation of the posts, this water met all of our local requirements. After the installation of the posts, it's not. I mean, I think that's kind of a residence of laboratory. You know, the thing speaks for itself.
If I could interrupt just for a second. I don't know if it's the posts. I don't know if it's the secondary filtration that was put in to help solve some of these issues. We don't know. But we also, I believe the process you went through was that when people had water quality issues after the posts, you employed a professional filtration equipment. It was to take samples and make suggestions on what secondary filtration was necessary in order to solve the issue. And I congratulate you, but it doesn't appear that there was any testing that was done to say, oh yeah, those filters did solve the problem. And I think in a lot of cases it did solve the problem, but I think we have lingering residents out there that still have issues. And if I look back at the documentation, this first appeared to be a problem back in November of 2022. So here we are going on almost 3 years, And we still have residents, we still have residents who indicate they have water quality.
Your own words when I first came into the Board of Health was that the water quality and the shallow wells, the drying up of wells, the pumping in other areas, again, cause a lot of these issues that are not PFAS related or POA related. Now, I am going to, after this discussion, I will go back and speak to my client and determine which way we want to proceed on this appeal.
Sure.
But at this time, the information that was presented to me at the beginning when we were looking at these private drinking water wells, there was a consistent failure. And again, you're on the record saying that during a hearing, that the quality of water, even though it's the water pipe separate from the murky versus the quality of water to drink, they have no second guessing with that. That's quality to drink, it's turbidity, metals, all these issues did not start with these pumps. Now, again, we will have to supply that information, we will do that. But again, I think the board has a lot of that information from the initial approvals of the well installations. And are they done properly?
I think you'll find that I said that in Westminster, we have low pH problems, we have high iron problems, and we have high manganese problems, and I have that in my own life, okay? It's not uncommon. You go out other parts of the state, you have high arsenic issues. They all can be treated. And before Abby can sign off on a building permit for a house, the water has to be filtered and tested to show that those have been filtered out. It's the normal process we go through every day. So, in this particular instance, how do we resolve this?
Okay. I think Attorney Highway just said he was going to go back to his client. I think you got two options. You could overturn the order, you could uphold the order, or you could continue this to a time and date certain after Mr. Attorney Highway goes back to his client and maybe he comes back in, sits down, and has a resolution. So I think those are your three options.
And that's something for us. Personally, I believe that if Attorney Hyder is willing to go back to his client, I think it's reasonable that we continue this to a point, a date certain.
Yep.
And then go from there if you're willing to.
Absolutely, as long as my communications go through council, since council's here, I prefer to go with you guys.
Okay, so what was the motion?
Motion would be, I think, to continue this hearing to, I don't know how much time he needs.
Probably 60 days.
It's going to be at least 35, 60 days.
Not 3 months.
I'll probably have to make. What's that?
I'm just asking the audience.
Oh. All right, do you think it should be 30 or do you think it should be 60?
I prefer 30, but what do you want? There was another appeal on the appeal. I'm willing to say 30 if you see that.
That's,
Yes,
That's
I
all. you have to,
No. Speech.
About the, would we be okay holding it on a Tuesday, the 19th?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, so we continue this. I make a motion, we continue this hearing, to May 19th. At 4:30. Yes? All in favor?
thank you very much.
Not a problem. What did you say about communication?
I'll be working with,
You
Attorney.
guys don't work it out?
Yeah, he can push everything right to me. And I'll send
This
it.
is not our first interaction.
What's that?
It's not our first interaction.
You guys are buddies?
No, just the opposite.
Go back and forth. Let's
Yes.
fix that.
And then just to summarize, thank you to the board for your time. We've met, we've done informational meetings. We've always attempted to cooperate with the board. I want to get that on the record, and we're going to continue to try to do that. However, we get to a point where we have to make sure the science meets the demands. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, before you do that, I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Let's continue. Let's continue.
What's that?
Let's continue. You don't have to close it.
Okay, close on the first.
Yeah, I guess you could close the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make a motion to close the hearing on the decommission order.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And then we make the motion to continue the hearing to our office.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. So at this point, I guess, we should take a recess to 5:30 because we have our next, someone on the agenda. Oh, yeah, we could do that. That makes sense. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Good seeing you.
Abby, new business?